We start with these images here for our France 24 Champions League special. The Eiffel Tower has been lit up in the colours of Paris Saint-Germain, the red and blue and the sparkles, and that is because history has been made in Munich. PSG crowned champions of Europe for the very first time in their history. They've absolutely trounced Inter Milan 5-0 in the final in a night that will go down in French folklore. A goal from fullback Achraf Hakimi, two from the incredible 19-year-old Désiré Doué, giving Luis Enrique's side an advantage before a strike from Kvicha Kvaratskhelia and Seni Mayule handing Paris their holy grail. These live pictures are coming through, all the fan reactions from the Parc des Princes as well. A night that will go down in Paris history. Over 50 years of torment on the European stage. And now the French capital erupts into triumph. They've only gone and done it on the biggest stage against Inter Milan. 3 times winners, unable to show any kind of force. And we can go straight to Selina Sykes, who's at the Parc des Princes for all the reaction. Selina, take us through every single moment. When those goals went in, what did you see around you and what is going on right now?
Well, Jean-Emile, I think the stadium speaks for itself. Absolutely incredible scenes here at the Parc des Princes. A full stadium, full of fans, overwhelmed by joy and emotion, winning their first Champions League final. What a historic day for PSG, and the fans are going absolutely wild in the stadium. I think this was beyond anyone's expectations. Any fan that felt confident before this final would have never dreamed or expected such a result. They were just absolutely spectacular, absolutely outplayed Inter Milan, this young, hungry PSG side. I don't know if you can hear me right now. Absolutely incredible scenes right now as Paris Saint-Germain just having their name written on that Champions League trophy for the first time ever. Absolutely incredible scenes there in the Parc des Princes. Fans going absolutely crazy, and as I'm sure you can imagine, this is just the beginning of the party, really. I think fans will stay here for what's come to see, obviously, PSG lift that trophy in Munich, and then, as tradition dictates, I'm sure a lot of them will be making their way to the Champs-Élysées, where all French fans traditionally go to celebrate big footballing triumphs like this one. Absolutely spectacular scenes here at the Parc des Princes, and then obviously, if all things bode well, if there isn't too much trouble this evening, then there will be a parade tomorrow on the Champs-Élysées as PSG make their victorious return after that absolutely brilliant triumph in the final. Fans can also be back here tomorrow when the trophy will be unveiled here to fans inside the stadium. I don't know if you can hear me right now, but I think the fans,
I can hear you, Selina.
The fans speak for themselves, Jean-Emile.
Oh, I can definitely hear you. That is absolutely immense. I think the French word for this is énorme, as we've been told by our PSG supporting producers. I just want to know, in terms of like when the goals went in, we saw Achraf Hakimi, we saw Désiré Doué. Every single goal must have just been met with more and more excitement. Paris finally knowing, after all these years of torment, it's finally coming home to the French capital.
That's right, as you said, after all that time, obviously, the expectation has been high ever since the Qataris took over this club. Fans have been waiting for this moment for years and years. It didn't happen when there was the likes of Mbappe, Leo Messi, Neymar, and here it is with Luis Enrique, who has built this absolutely spectacular side from scratch. Only Marquinhos is the only player who is remaining from that Champions League squad from 5 years ago, if I do say so correctly. Absolutely remarkable season here, and I think it's safe to say that you and I and the PSG fans are in a bit in disbelief. Nobody really would have expected such a high-scoring final, such an entertaining final, and well, the party's going to go on for a while here, I think, at the Parc des Princes, and I'm sure long into the night throughout Paris, Jean-Emile.
And when that trophy lift happens, it's going to be that man, Marquinhos, as you said, just Presnel Kimpembe, who is from that original squad in the final. He hasn't played a single minute due to injury. Nonetheless, this is a whole new batch of young guns. They've entirely united these Paris Saint-Germain faithful. In terms of the spirit in the stadium, you know, Paris Saint-Germain used to be a split fan base, and now they've come under one umbrella. Was there just unity? You know, people just hugging each other? Just talk to me about the fans themselves, and every single time that a goal went in, how they reacted with each other.
Well, I think as we spoke earlier, Jean-Emile, the unity of the fans is a testament to how this team has been built under Enrique. He's got everyone beside, everyone behind the squad. The whole stadium here is together, absolutely amazing. No problems in the stadium, as we can see. Lots of flares going off, a few fireworks, and PSG fans are just all here united together behind this team that has really given PSG fans a reason to chant and to sing about their club again. And I think that's a big testament. We spoke to a lot of fans earlier saying that they've managed to fall in love with the football that PSG is playing again. And as a fan, that's often the most important thing. Well, obviously trophies and titles are a big cherry on top, but fans have definitely been behind this squad this season, this team. A lot of people saying that, you know, these younger players, they're here to play for the team, they're paying for the badge, unlike maybe a few superstars a few years ago, Jean-Emile. And, well, the Parc de France is a testament to that this evening. Absolutely incredible scenes here. These lucky 48,000 fans who've been lucky enough to be inside the stadium this evening for this historic moment, as PSG will be lifting in a few minutes' time their first Champions League trophy.
Selina, if you have a voice after this, I think you deserve a trophy yourself. We can go now to the latest pictures as well, just looking at all of the celebration, and certainly while out on the streets of Paris, the fans are flocking, just enjoying it. It really is pulsating. We hear fireworks as you're coming into the office. You can see them right there. Don't expect to have a silent night in the French capital. I can tell you that it is going to be immense celebrations up until, well, next season and then beyond. Suddenly, Paris Saint-Germain, as the Eiffel Tower shows there, are the champions of Europe. They are the best team currently on the continent, and we have to say they thoroughly deserved it. A 5-0 thrashing of Inter Milan in the final. We can go straight to Munich for more reaction now with our sports editor, James Zecina. James, you just had a moment to catch your breath. You've managed to get outside the Allianz Arena. There it is in full view behind you. I don't even think the most hardened PSG fan could have predicted what an annihilation of Inter Milan this could have been.
No, you're absolutely right, Jean. I mean, nobody predicted that. I mean, we went around the day asking people, you know, what are you planning on seeing? What's going to happen tonight? What's going to be, you know, a goal here, maybe some of the most optimistic, 2-0, 3-1, something like that. 5-0. That's an absolute thrashing indeed that happened just here. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit away right now from the fans, so we can have a bit more of perhaps an easier conversation than the crazy atmosphere that I've just heard but not seen. Selina being around there in Paris, it sounds absolutely brilliant, and we'll catch a bit of that over here as well. But for now, we're a bit on the side here. And Jean, absolutely. I mean, you were just talking about the atmosphere with Selina in Paris. I can tell you in the stadium, it was something. And that from the very first minutes. The PSG fans were there. They were loud. They were silencing Inter Milan. And that well before the first goal, well before Hakimi got that first goal. A very simple goal for him to actually go and score the way he was set up magnificently. But the PSG fans were there from the very start. And I was actually quite surprised because Inter fans coming into this were confident as well. You know, we've spoken, they have the experience. They've done this before. They failed, of course, 2 years ago, but they've got that experience in them. And in the end, though, that confidence vanished. And I don't think PSG won thanks to their fans being there. It certainly helped them, but it was the team that was there. But not can be said about the Italian sides. I mean, they were quiet at one point. I mean, I was sat right in the middle in terms of the pitch and in terms of the stands, of course. And to my left, PSG fans, I mean, shouting and letting off flares right from the start of the game and chanting throughout. And I was even wondering if I mean, my hearing is all right, but I was wondering if something wasn't right because to my right, it was so silent. And that, once the goals came in, first, the second, there was a bit of a hope towards the end of the first half that perhaps Inter Milan were going to manage to get a goal and then kind of get the game going once again. But when we came into the third, of course, Doué getting a second goal. And to be honest, I mean, it was that fourth one from Kvaratskhelia that absolutely, I mean, at that point, we saw the staff from PSG run onto the pitch, as you would have seen as well on the television. They knew they'd done it at that point. It was to be that they'd get a fifth one and truly silence them after that. But they knew that they'd done it. And to be honest, from the look on the players' faces, once they were 3-0 down, they did not want to be there anymore. They did not want to be enduring that. I mean, there was, you asked yourself some questions at some point. Could this be the greatest comeback that we're going to see? There is a possibility, of course, when there's 30 minutes left in a match, definitely possible. But the players didn't want to be there, and neither did the fans. The fans and even people from the press area, for journalists actually leaving quite early on after that. Once they were 4-0 down, they knew it was finished. But the others just holding their heads in their hands, unbelievable. Couldn't believe that they were no match for PSG tonight. No match at all for what was... It was a walk in the park for them. The way that PSG put on that display, it really was a walk, not in the Parc des Princes, but in the park over here in Munich.
James, I'm just seeing the statistics from that game. 23 shots for PSG, just the 8 for Inter Milan. PSG dominating possession, 60% to Inter Milan's 40%. Okay, they don't like to play with possession, but PSG just dominating in every aspect of the game right from the very get-go. You could see it literally with every single player, how much hunger they had to go on and create history. Has the Paris faithful that you saw in the stands, have they ever seen a team so galvanized singing from the same hymn sheet?
No, nobody has. Nobody has. Honestly, I mean, especially for Paris Saint-Germain, as you say, the fierce that they had in them from the very start. It got to half-time and we were like, okay, they've dominated everything so far. They haven't let any space for Inter. It's not going to continue. Okay, there was a little bit more play from Inter Milan after that. But all in all, they weren't able to hold on to the ball. What was Inzaghi's rule coming into this? It was, we're going to keep possession. We're going to keep control of the game. That didn't last for 5 minutes. Paris Saint-Germain, you just reveals the statistics there. 59% possession turns any of Inter's plans completely around. And in that, punished them severely. I mean, talk about their defence being outrun by the young bloods, the young legs, the fresh legs that they have in them. They weren't able to keep up. But even ahead of that in the midfield, Paris Saint-Germain, I mean, spectacular. And that is where they really were able to keep control of the game. Because at the back, apart from Hakimi, who wanted to get on the score sheet early on, they didn't have much to worry about. And that just midfield line, absolutely incredible from the Paris sides.
And as you speak, we have Marquinhos, the Brazilian captain for Paris Saint-Germain. We know that he has just lifted the trophy. He has just become the first Paris Saint-Germain captain to lift the Champions League. What a moment for him. What a moment for you, James. Thank you. We'll be back with you. But I want to come back to the studio right now as the Eiffel Tower glitters in all of its splendor. Ruben Slachter, what a game. And I have to give you credit because you predicted if Inter do not get the basics right, Paris Saint-Germain could run away with this. You actually said 4-0. I don't think even you predicted 5.
It was a close call, right? No, listen, what we said before and what we were discussing was PSG had to play their own game. Go after them. Go 1v1 on the whole pitch, and that's what they did. They were extraordinary from the beginning. Inter was below par in everything, but you don't take anything away from how PSG played this game. They went for it. They wanted to win it, and tactically, technically, mentally, physically, just everything. They were just all over the place.
Just a reminder for our viewers, this is the heaviest final defeat of all time.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's also part of it is Inter's part because they were very, very poor. I mean, Di Marco as an example because he was completely outplayed by Hakimi on everything. But he was not the only one. I think that you saw everything what Inter was afraid of, I think, and especially the battle on midfield. James was already saying it. They lost it on points, on just everything. So yeah, there's also nothing to say from their side. It's just I think that after the 2-0 went in, the game was over already.
As soon as that, so that was on the 20th minute that Desiree Doué made it 2-0.
If I may say just something, because it's also the win of a whole team. I mean, also the central defenders were pretty good. There were a few dangerous crosses from the sides. a few corners. So the set pieces, what is one of Inter's strong points. So they had some little chances. But if you look all over the place, and especially how PSG was just in control of the game, yeah, those goals and especially the third one was such a beautiful goal because that's also a player we have to. I mean, we can talk about Doué, who was the standout player tonight. But if you look the job Ousmane Dembele does as a false number 9, a guy who wants to score goals, but how much he is doing to protect the ball, to recover it, and at that goal especially, how he is setting it up. Giving a fantastic ball to Vitinha, who gives it to Doué, all on the right speed, and then the finishing.
I just have to show this picture to our viewers because you can see behind Ruben there, Ousmane Dembele, as he goes to Desiré Doué for his second goal. You've got Kvaratskhelia, you've got Marquinhos, you've got Fabian Ruiz and Nuno Mendes even. There's just every single player came to the park and they played their part. It was really incredible, as you mentioned there, that Ousmane Dembele back flick.
As a Dutchman, we should say total football, but yeah, it came very close to that. It was an utter joy to watch. Unfortunately, there was an opponent who didn't play well, but nothing to take away from PSG. They played a perfect game.
So just a reminder, Hakimi with the first goal, Desiré Doué scoring a double at just 19 years old. We also had a goal from their January signing from Napoli, Kvaratskhelia, the Georgian, who's just gone on from strength to strength, one of the best wingers in the game. And then it was rounded off by Seni Mayulu, also another 19-year-old, handing Paris the fifth goal. It was possibly even the best goal of the lot. But we do have an opponent, of course, and we do have reaction from a fan who will be very disappointed indeed in Inter's performance. That is Asad Hussein, who joins us now from Cairo. Asad, I have to just send my condolences because as far as an Inter performance goes, it was literally like watching a team go into retirement in real time.
I wouldn't think of another way, a better way to put it, John. I really like what you said. It's actually what literally happened on the field. Paris Saint-Germain youngsters and the new team that could dominate European football and definitely domestic football in France really did put the Inter squad into retirement. All the old guard players, I think they're done with football. We're talking about Acerbi or Darmian. But actually, as an Inter fan, I have to be really honest. As a football analyst, as a football journalist, I have to be really honest. Congrats to PSG. It was one-sided game. The Inter squad didn't arrive to the Allianz Arena. It was one-sided game all over. I'm very happy for Achraf Hakimi as an Arab, as an African, because he's now the third Arab and African player to score in a Champions League final after Rabah Badjer, the Algerian player with Porto in 1987, and Mo Salah in 2019. So I'm very happy for Achraf Hakimi. I'm very happy for Marquinhos. You were talking about the investment. You were talking about winning the treble. But actually, we have to bear in mind, John, that the Qatari investment finally succeeded with the project. Finally, they put their hands on the big trophy, on the Champions League. And if you think about it, I'm really happy for Marquinhos as a leader because he's the only constant element since the beginning of the Qatari investment in Paris Saint-Germain. So finally, he's waited so long to put his hands on this trophy and to lift it as a captain. Inter and Inzaghi, I don't think they imagined even that the worst Inter fan or the worst Inter pessimist wouldn't have imagined to lose or to be smashed by 5-0. Inzaghi really didn't prepare for the game, didn't have any respect for PSG, although he played with the main squad. But preparing for the tactics, he really undermined Luis Enrique as a magician who played a very good game tactically. And actually, he did everything right within the game tactically. And we're talking about another manager on the line, on the sideline, who did everything wrong in the game. The trio of the midfield couldn't run the game. He lost their legs against a very, very, or the best midfield, I think, in Europe now, Vitinha, Pau Neves, and of course, Fabian Ruiz. Di Marco was a very, very, was a big point of weakness for Inter. And I think 3 or 4 of the goals were from his side. Achraf Hakimi really dominated him. And also, all of the defense were not in their day-to-day.
It just sounds like Inter absolutely did not show up. It was just a very poor performance, and maybe all of those games finally catching up with him. I said, I just, as you were speaking, we saw these live images of the PSG reaction. It really is something. and they saw that their team, as you mentioned, is such a young team, and they can go on from strength to strength. We're now also seeing some images again of the Eiffel Tower. I just want to know, I said, where to for Inzaghi, where to for his team, because now there's a whole lot of players, they'll never get their hands on a Champions League trophy. They probably are actually going to retire now.
It's a very good question. The question is now, after, if you just go to another page of this story and just leave this massive defeat behind your back, as you said, it's the heaviest defeat on the history of Champions League finals. Where do we go from now? It's like the question is for Inzaghi, of course, as the manager of Inter. Does he think his job is done at Inter? He always goes to the last line of the competition, but as it happened in 2023, he couldn't put his hands on the champion. He lost the final, and again in two finals in 3 years, he loses the final again. For the management and the new owners, Octree, their target is to get young players. Where do we go from now? Is it like the veterans should hang their boots, and now we're building a more youthful team and go with the flow with all the top European teams are going, which is investing in the Primavera and the young players at Inter, and also buying the good prospects of players who could be, and young players who could play a role in the future, and just get rid of the old veterans that actually were very loyal to Inter, played the role, and managed to get a very glorious journey to the final. But now, after they've been thrashed by 5-0 by PSG, you have to look forward and you have to look to the future of the team.
A restructuring very much needed under their US owner as well. I said, thank you so much. We'll be back with you. I want to head, though, first again to the Parc des Princes, where Selina Sykes has been just trying to even catch her breath amongst all the ferocious support. Selina, just tell me, are the fans very much still there, still packed out, more than 40,000? Tell me, what is this going to mean for Paris as the French capital going forward?
Well, the fans have been saying they've been here. The ceremony has just come to the end. They've just seen PSG lift the trophy. There were fireworks in the Parc des Princes. They're here for PSG fans to enjoy. They're just starting to slowly file out of the stadium, and I can imagine that a lot of them will now be making their way to the Champs-Élysées, which is the traditional place where French football fans go to celebrate triumphs. What will this mean to PSG fans? Well, a lot, because the first time you win a Champions League does mean a lot more than the others that come, if I do say so myself. That first one is always very special. It's obviously something that fans have been waiting for a long time. There's been so much expectation since the Qatari owners have come onto the scene, and they've done it. It wasn't with all the big superstars. It's with this very young side that Luis Enrique has constructed since he joined the club. And it's quite moving to see, some of the fans absolutely in tears, just absolutely beside themselves with joy and with tears. I don't think a lot of them will be able to quite realise that they've done it, and in such circumstances. 5-0 thrashing in a Champions League final. It's quite a remarkable achievement. I don't think many people would have expected such a scoreline. So this is a very big deal for PSG fans, and obviously only the second French club in history to have won the Champions League after Marseille in 1993, and now here in 2025 with Paris Saint-Germain. And well, it's just the beginning, really, because the fans, I think the vast majority of them will be going out onto the streets of Paris and Champs-Élysées to be carrying on the passing well into the early hours. And that's not where it ends, Jean-Emile, because we're expecting for the PSG squad to touch down around mid-afternoon, usually in Paris. And after that, we are expecting a parade on the Champs-Élysées. And PSG have said that after that, that they will have a trophy presentation for those lucky fans who managed to get a spot in the Parc des Princes on Sunday.
And Selina, you're going to be there at the Champs-Élysées tomorrow evening, no doubt, to actually get us all of that reaction. And it really is going to be a vociferous crowd that greets these PSG players. They've now etched their name into Paris and French folklore, the second French team to win the Champions League in all of history. And now the first team from France to win a treble as well. Ruben Slachter, in terms of the initial project that was laid out back in 2011 when the Qataris took over, they took over the team with just £52 million. It's now a club valued at £3.7 billion, which is just remarkable if you just think about it. This is a project which has absolutely been realized by Nasser Al-Khelaifi over the years. What a moment for the Qatar Sports Investment Group.
Yeah, I remember it because I arrived almost at the same moment as Qatar in Paris. So yeah, I followed it from the beginning. The thing was when they came, it was, I mean, there are several parts of when they came, right? I mean, the first part was getting young, interesting players and to build up a team that can compete in the first place to win the Ligue 1. We can still think about Verratti at the time, but also Marquinhos, Sirigu, for example. Then came already some bigger names, Thiago Silva, for example, and until came the real big name, which was Zlatan Ibrahimovic, to transform the brand of PSG into a proper, big name in European football. Then there was a lot of excitement around it because a lot of people in Europe were also excited to see, a club from Paris play in Europe. There was also a thing about, there's a lot of money involved, so are we going to like this or not? And then they made, in my opinion, the huge mistake of going straight for the biggest names of all, which were Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe. Yeah,
I'm just going to pause you right there because that is the breaking photo of Marquinhos, the Brazilian captain, lifting the Champions League. That has never been pictured in history.
But Marquinhos is of course the symbol of this team because he was there from the beginning and he is a proper PSG player. But what I just wanted to say is when all those the superstars came, they went for the brand and not for the football club. You know what I mean? Afterwards, they came back to themselves. They now really have a structure. Let's again not forget that the players they bought and that they are standing on the pitch are not cheap players, are also not. It's not that they come out of huge youth projects, especially Mayulu, of course, a fantastic story, but it's a separate one. But yeah, now in the last years they tried to go back to how they started, and that they already win it right now. I think that even the owners they didn't expect it because if you look back at this season, it's quite a miracle, right? They were 15th in the group stage of the Champions League.
They lost to Arsenal.
Yeah.
They lost at home to Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
They had to come back from behind at 2-0 down against Manchester City. And that was really the turning point, wasn't it?
Yeah, and at that point, there was nobody who said, this PSG team is going to win. There was one. I remember that because there was a press conference of João Neves before they played against Liverpool. And he said, we are the favorites today. And now I was listening. I was like, okay, or you are really, really confident or really, really stupid. And he was right. You have to admit that. From then on, those 2 games against Liverpool, they turned it around. But if you now hear around Europe, people talking about PSG, it's only respect because it's just incredible what they did from then on. They deserved it. They're the best playing footballing team in Europe, without a doubt. So all the credits to them.
And you remember actually that Liverpool game, Mo Salah said, we came up against the best team in Europe and we lost. So there was a magnanimous understanding that this really was the pinnacle. And now, it's been built on the foundations of something very young. I want to go to James Vecina again in Munich. James, we saw in the starting lineup Desiree Doué getting those magnificent 2 goals. He is just 19. And then we saw, of course, Seni Mayulu. There's also Bradley Barcola, who came off the bench. This is a team which has an entire decade ahead of them. How magnificent for Luis Enrique, knowing that he has crafted this.
Really is. I mean, this is, in a way, we're talking about this as being the result of the project, but it's also, in a way, as we can expect here, the beginning of it as well. Considering their age, considering the potential that they've got coming into this, the likes of Doué, indeed, the likes of Barcola, who will be disappointed not to have got his goal. He thought, I think, at some point that he had actually scored tonight, but it didn't actually. It's maybe a little bit. I couldn't even say too much confidence because they were really fighting very much until the very end, trying to just they were really playing the game. But perhaps he would have kicked himself had he not have scored it if PSG were in a different position. But yeah, this is the start of something new. The start of part 2 basically of the Qatari project in a way. You were mentioning with Ruben just there about the level of respect that Paris is now getting. They have not had up until now. Why? For several of those reasons. Money being thrown at players to come and play. Results not being behind there, and also looking at the attitude of the players in them, and it wasn't anything about a team. So this really is the difference that we've seen in the last couple of months in the knockout rounds, of course, of the Champions League. Not before that, because let's not forget they had to go through the playoffs to try and to be able to come through to the knockout rounds. It didn't look at the start of this season as though this was going to be the beginning of the perfect end to a season for them. But they made changes around. They made signings, of course, with the likes of Keller, who went and found goal once again tonight, and have impressed and knocked out huge teams on the way. You spoke of Liverpool, incredible game against Arsenal as well. And I think at that point is when we thought, okay, right, these are teams who have been there for Arsenal, haven't won it before, but who know and who weigh a lot on the European level, and we know they're worth. And English teams, of course. I mean, we have the Ligue 1 here in France, but we look at the Premier League, it's on another level, and there's this form of, PSG would have been extremely satisfied and gained a lot of confidence from having done that in the build-up to the final. And that really just says a lot about it. They were able to just other teams to their side. Salah, you mentioned there, not getting anywhere near goal when he needed to, and Paris Saint-Germain doing the job for that. So it really is about them now affirming themselves. Let's see how things go forward. I think we need to definitely just enjoy for the moment. Well, they need to enjoy for the moment what they've achieved tonight. But I think this is definitely the start of a project, of Luis Enrique's project here.
Very much the start there, very much the end for Inter Milan. Once again, going back to Asad Hussein in Cairo. Asad, this was the first final, by the way, in 21 years without a German, English or Spanish side in it. Unfortunately for Inter Milan, they conceded against a team which is very much their junior. You had the highest average age in this tournament with Inter Milan, and you had the lowest average age with Paris Saint-Germain. It was experience versus excitement. In terms of Italian football going forward, because there seems to be some kind of a stagnation, it doesn't seem to be going anywhere with being able to attract the biggest names. What can Inter do to actually solve that little crisis in a way?
It is a crisis, and it's a turning point, John, because Inter was the last team or the last Italian side to win the Champions League and winning the treble with Mourinho in 2010. Ever since, also shout out to Juventus, who reached the final consecutively and lost to the MSN and the massive Barcelona team, and the next year against Real Madrid respectively. But I mean, since 2010, no Italian side has ever won the Champions League. So going into this game, John, it was on the shoulders of Inter squad and Inter Milan as a team to kind of raise what you just said and raise the standard by winning the Champions League, being an attractive team, to attract the players, to attract the big names, and begin to get the pride of the Italian football and the Serie A as well as a very, very important league and used to be the best in the 90s. So this loss, I think, it makes you go to square one or square zero, because yet an Italian team to win a Champions League for 15 years now, new champions are winning by winning Italian teams, as just happened in Munich. So it's a very bad situation, I think, for Italian football, because even Juventus, who is they invested around 200 million euros in the market this year, and they managed only to qualify for Champions League. Napoli won the Serie A, but yet in the Champions League cannot advance to a higher stage or to being in the quarterfinals or the semifinals. So it's a bit of a AC Milan, of course, finished at 8. We're talking about the pride of Italy regarding Champions League. They won 7 Champions League. So it's a very bad moment, I think, not only for Inter, but Italian football, because it gets you way back, and you have to rebuild again, and you have to kind of invest and enhance all the Italian teams to go through and reach the finals of the 3 European tournaments.
Well, as you speak, just getting more reaction there, Asad. Thank you so much for that really comprehensive insight, by the way, just getting those images there from the streets of Paris. Just Asad talking about the backtracking of Italian football, back to square zero, Ruben. Nonetheless, Paris Saint-Germain winning the Champions League, do you think that can have the reverse effect for French football?
Oh, that's a big question. If I may just jump in on what Asa said, because I couldn't agree more. We all remember the Italian football in the 80s and 90s being the league where everybody wanted to play. That's just not the case anymore. You could even say that what Inter did tonight, coming into this final, was still, I wouldn't say a miracle, but a very good achievement from them if you compare it. If we talk about budget, if we talk about the players on the pitch, there is a huge problem there with older stadiums, not enough money getting in, bad ownership, not enough young players because there's not enough younger Italian football in general. It's also having a real trouble. So yeah, there is a lot to change in Italy. Talking about France, yeah, that's a different story. I think that PSG has become such a big brand. We were talking about it before. They managed to build the brand now. They also managed to build the football club. I think these are two separate things, but they managed now to get it all together, which is a huge achievement. To get other clubs following, the Ligue 1 is for now not exciting enough. I think that for a lot of people, it's PSG and the rest. You have to be a proper football fan to know a bit more about clubs like Marseille, Lyon, and these kind of clubs. Big clubs, but abroad not interesting enough. Could it be? The best thing would be, of course, to have a rival for PSG, but I don't see it happening very soon. Maybe Paris FC, because now Paris FC is now coming in and we'll have the derby in Paris.
And we just see these scenes. You say the derby in Paris. I wonder if there's going to be more of those when Paris FC does play their first game against PSG. That is going to be a remarkable set of events, by the way. The two stadiums literally separated by about 70 meters or so.
Paris is such an interesting city. Yeah, we can talk about it a long time, but Paris and sports is such an interesting combination. I mean, there's now Roland Garros now going on. You have the Tour de France, the last stage coming in here. There were the Olympics, but proper a sports atmosphere. If you compare to a city like London, where you have, 14 pro clubs. Here you have PSG, you have Paris FC, who is now finally into Ligue 1. Red Star, if you count them, a Parisian club, even though they're just outside. But yeah, this whole football culture is not really existing. But the funny thing about PSG is that it's getting everything that is making Paris so interesting together. You have the bling bling, but you also have the banlieue. Everything is coming into that stadium and people are really proud of the club. You were talking before about the fans. When Qatar came, there was a lot of issues. I mean, the fans of PSG, the two Virages were well known for fighting with opponents, but also
it led
amongst
to the
them.
death of a supporter from the Boulogne side in 2010, and that's when the ultras were actually banned from the stadium for a good 6 years.
Yeah, and now they managed to let them back in little by little, controlling it all very much. But you also have to say that if James was already saying it, if you listen to the atmosphere tonight and to all the away games where PSG, when they were playing away, there's always a huge group going with them who are super, super fanatic and not causing much trouble. I should say this not too loud because I don't know exactly what happened in Munich tonight, but yeah, there is a whole vibe around PSG, and not only because of the new fans, but there is a city behind them right now.
Are we just seeing this again? These are quite remarkable scenes. They are celebration scenes, it must be said.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. James, if you are still available there in Munich, I just want to know, it all went by without any kind of incident, just making sure it was all in great spirit as far as you could see?
We saw a few videos online that went around of some issues going on in the underground here in Munich between just a few fans. Can't tell you exactly what happened then. But as far as the only issues that we did see, after the underground exits to get over there a little bit, and there were some more ultra Italian fans who did actually. PSG fans with,
James, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you there because I think either some fan support or just celebrations are getting in the way of the signal. Selina, we're going to go back to you because maybe the Wi-Fi in the Parc des Princes is really doing some glorious things. I'm sure that there's been a large exodus. I can already see the Eiffel Tower emblazoned on the seats behind you, and that means that the fans have largely poured out onto the streets. And I can attest to that because we're getting these live images of flares being set off on the streets of Paris. It is quite astonishing, and it is certainly going to be a unifying factor for the city going forward. What can we expect basically in the weeks to come. What do you think it's going to be doing for French society? I just want to know, as a Parisian, how are you feeling going forward? The Champions League is now in their hands.
Well, look, obviously, I wouldn't say the entire of France is behind PSG. Obviously, we know that when it comes to football alliances, it can be quite difficult. But we will definitely say that the whole of Paris, I think, this evening is very happy for PSG. And this moment, as you said, the fans have all filed out of the Parc des Princes here. And as I said earlier, we can imagine that the vast majority of them will be making their way slowly but surely to the Champs-Élysées, which is the traditional spot where French football fans celebrate triumphs in terms of the next few weeks. Well, I think it will take a while for the PSG fans to recover from their celebrations, because this is just the beginning, really. As I said, there'll be many partying and celebrating going on the streets in the early hours of this evening, I would imagine. And then tomorrow there's another full day of festivities with the squad expected to touch down some point in mid-afternoon, and that parade is expected at some point on Sunday along the iconic Champs-Élysées. And then the plan is for the squad to come back into the Parc des Princes here for an official trophy celebration in the Parc des Princes. I can imagine that fans are already scrambling, trying to get tickets for that one. For now, obviously, the big question and focus of this evening will now be security. Of course, 5 years ago, when they lost in the final, there were a few issues afterwards. Obviously, this evening, they're celebrating a victory rather than the defeats, but obviously sometimes things can get a bit out of hand when fans get a bit overexcited. There's around 5,400 police deployed in Paris this evening. Some of them are outside the Parc des Princes as we speak, but the vast majority of them will be deployed to the Champs-Élysées, where the vast majority of PSG fans are expected to congregate in the coming minutes.
Selina, thank you so much. And when you're getting out there, make sure that you enjoy the festivities. Of course, keep safe as always. Selina was there at the Stade de France in that final between Real Madrid and Liverpool, which did descend into a bit of chaos. And I think the officials have very much learned their lesson up until now. Let's go back to Asad Hussein in Cairo. Asad, in terms of creating new fans, PSG have now won the Champions League for the very first time in their history. And yet, I would say that the brand of PSG has reached all around the globe already. They've managed to really market themselves in a way which I don't think Inter Milan has managed in that same period. In fact, in terms of even gate receipt revenue and just general merchandise sales, Paris Saint-Germain is more than double Inter Milan's. How do you create these new fans going forward? How do you really make sure that the brand of Inter holds true?
It's a very good question. I think Inter Milan's target wouldn't be like building new fans. It's all about, it's a very like historic team. It's all about getting back those fans together, to Inter bouncing back, standing on a ground feet, and trying to get Inter in the right place. Inter, that Grande Inter that wins the titles, that won the treble before. As for PSG, I totally agree with you. They've been building on this brand for a long time now, and now they're gaining it. Actually, as an Inter fan, I have to be also honest about this. This version of PSG under the project of Luis Campos and in Luis Enrique is a very lovable team. Also, the problem with PSG wasn't only bringing the big names and directing the money in a wrong way. It was only about, it wasn't a lovable team. People didn't get excited to see PSG, even when they had Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, But now it's a very lovable team. It's a youth team. People want to watch it. It has a very, and of course, as you were saying in the studio, it has a very, very large fan base and a very aggressive fans. So it ticks all the boxes, but it was yet to put the cherry on the top and to win a big trophy and to win the Champions League. This is where everything comes together and creates the brand with the credibility. We are the champs of Europe. We are going with this youth team, with this new project under Luis Enrique and Luis Campos as the advisor of football in PSG, to have a new brand, to dominate domestic football and yet to compete in European football and maybe dominate it for the next 2 or 3 years, along with other teams and big names like Madrid and Barcelona. So it's a very interesting project. Of course, the fan base, I think it's going to be very wide. And it comes back to the ordinary football fan, John, where actually Paris Saint-Germain is a very lovable team now.
A very lovable team. That's quite a statement compared to what it was before. I said, I want to get your hypothetical. If Inter Milan did actually win, would you have gone to Milan? What would you have seen there? I mean, if you take us back to 2010, what would it have been like on the streets there? Just if we can imagine for ourselves.
Oh my God, it would have been a dream. I know. I want to tell you something. I have a younger brother who's 10 years younger than me, and he just like opened his eyes as a football fan on the 2010 treble. So he was talking to me today. He said, "You've witnessed it. You've seen the pride of Inter." Me, as a young fan, I really want to watch Inter win the Champions League just once. So it was very devastating for him. But yeah, it would have been totally different. It would have been a very impressive win with a very, very tight balance. I think financially, John, it would have been a miracle. So PSG winning and thrashing Inter is very logical within the financial terms, actually. But and also the as we spoke before, tactically about the age of the teams. But yeah, if Inter would have won it, it would have been a miracle. Coming down to the numbers, coming down to the very tight debts they have, and the very tight balance they have on the squad.
Said Hussein, thank you so much. Let me just bring in Ruben there, because Ruben, a couple of years back, I watched a game between Paris Saint-Germain and Montpellier. It finished 5-2, and in that Paris Saint-Germain team, they had that three-pronged attack of Messi, Neymar, Mbappe. And I have to say, there was no ambience in the crowd. It felt very unmysterious, unmagical, and yet Luis Enrique has managed to recapture the fantasy of football with this team. As I mentioned, it is still very well financially backed, so we can't forget that point. And yet he's done quite something to regain that support, even from neutrals.
It brings back a bit of hope for us football romantics, right? I mean, yeah, this is what you want to see, like a team with happy players and playing it together, playing as a team, which, I mean, football is a bit more getting into like the individual part. Everybody's only talking about their own data and this kind of stuff. Yeah, I couldn't care less, to be honest. So this is these team performances, and look at Mayulo if you can look it back, and when he celebrates his goal, that the pure joy. I mean, this is the joy that we had when we were little boys running on a pitch and scoring a goal ourselves. That's all what makes sports so beautiful. And yeah, again, full credit to Luis Enrique for doing that. Luis Campos, as I said it rightly so, because he's also important for that. Yeah, and making the right mix of players. I really hope that other teams will also be inspired by this, by seeing how it's done, and that you really go for the best team and not for the biggest names. I mean, I think that's a very, very important lesson out of this victory.
Yeah, that was really the message that was delivered and pretty much followed Luis Enrique up until this final. A man who was driven really by things off the pitch as well. If we remember that his 9-year-old daughter sadly passed away from a rare form of bone cancer, and he used her spirit to motivate him. And I think it actually made quite a few neutral fans as well take on a bit of support for the Spaniard. Yeah,
for him, I mean, and his story is very tragic, but you can also see that he is a football lover. He loves the game. He is inspiring. If you see the videos for him in the behind the scenes, you also sometimes think, okay, is this the way to motivate people? But he manages to do it. It's also not easy. I mean, the world is changing. Young people are changing to get to the right spot with players like Kvaratskhelia and with Dembele to make it work. He manages to do it. He is just the ultimate people manager, and again, he should be praised for that, but without forgetting that the tactical part is super sound as well. So yeah, the complete manager, and I think he's one of the only ones who still can do it. I mean, on the manager side, you have people like Ancelotti who are very strong, and on the tactical side, people like Guardiola, also fantastic. But I should name Arne Slot as a Dutchman, of course. But I think that Luis Enrique right now is the complete manager.
This is his second Champions League. He did win it in 2015 with that all-conquering Barcelona side with some really incredible players. And Inter, this is the fourth final that they have lost, of course. And every single one of those finals was against a team which has gone on to win a treble. Where do you go after winning a treble as a team? I mean, what is the next step? Because you've basically completed football.
Yeah, well, that will be the it's the right question. I hope that they can keep the team together, but now is the moment. I again go for Kvaratskhelia, because the Kvaratskhelia, when Napoli became champion the first time when he was there, so it was their third title, not the one of this year. The next year he was completely gone, because that team, that there was also some kind of magic in the team. Not as good as this PSG team, but it all clicked together for once. If they can keep this magic as a team, that would be very impressive. But to get on top is not, as what they often say, is not the hardest part, but to stay there. So yeah, maybe they will try and look for a player who can even give them some extra dynamics. But to be honest, I think that their lineup right now is pretty much perfect.
Well, perfect with a 19-year-old Desiree Doué. Selina Sykes still with us, and it must have been quite a night. I really do envy you. They're just witnessing all the reaction. We've just seen images of Desiree Doué celebrating, and we also touched on Ousmane Dembele. His record of 33 goals across all competitions this season. He's really been a revelation, stepping into the boots of Kylian Mbappe. And that was since a positional change, actually, that Luis Enrique did at the back end of last year. He moved Dembele from the wing into a false nine position, and he completely became a different player. How important for supporters do you think it is that there is this core of French youth coming through?
Well, that's right. As you mentioned, Dembele there absolutely thrived since that position. James, what a touch of masterpiece by Luis Enrique. He's really taken on that role so well. There was obviously a bit of questions at the end of last year over his form and his mentality. He was dropped at one point at the late of last year, but Dembele now being one of the crucial factors of this team. What a season he has had. He's been stood up when it's mattered most, scoring goals or assists or everything really. And as you said, obviously it's very nice, I think, for PSG fans to see some French stars in this team, and obviously a lot of promise to come. When you think about Bradley Barcola and Desiree Doué, they're both teenagers, so they've got a long, hopefully a rich career to come here at PSG, and this is a very young team. So I think PSG fans can be very optimistic about the future. What Luis Enrique has managed to build in just over a year and a half has been really quite exceptional. He's really stripped the backbone of this team and started from scratch. A lot of young stars, a lot of French young stars, as you said, Jean-Emile. And the future, I would say, is a bright one now for PSG. They've obviously won this first Champions League trophy, and we'll have to see where they can go from here. As you said, a first treble for a French club as well. So I think the sky is the limit now for this French side, with a lot of young stars that have, I would say, a fair few years of glory yet to come.
Ruben, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's super important to have a French players in it, but the most important thing is that there's really proud PSG players in it, and that's the whole difference. Marquinhos is Brazilian, but is a PSG icon right now. If you look at the players right now, how we said it before, how proud they are to come play for PSG. It's not anymore about coming for the money or for the project or whatever. No, this is a team. This is one of the best teams in Europe, the best team in Europe right now. That's why they want to come here. And then comes the new dynamic, because the Ile-de-France, the region of Paris, is the region in Europe where there's the most talent in football. If you look around all the competitions, there's many players coming out of the Ile-de-France. You now can look even more for the biggest talents in there to make them integrate even more into Paris Saint-Germain. It's just a win-win situation in the end.
And it's all based around some hard work from Luis Enrique. James Vecina coming back to us now with, I think, a bit of a clearer air around the Munich Allianz Arena. I don't suppose you've been managing to speak to some people about their reactions. Neutrals, I'm actually quite interested in terms of how they view Luis Enrique's revival of this PSG team, and if they feel that he's really tapped into some kind of an understanding of football fantasy is back.
No, I haven't actually yet, Jean, because trying to keep a bit of a low profile here, because we're actually we've got a nice view here on the stadium, but we're actually close to where it's actually the exit for the Inter supporters. So trying to not keep have too much contact just for that. There are a couple of PSG supporters here as well, but of course just trying to keep everything nice and calm so we can continue this conversation just for now. But look, fans getting on well pretty much together from what we've seen here, and you know, there's a lot of people now leaving, which is why the reception was pretty bad just a few moments ago, but we've had a few celebrations on the roads, quite a lot of traffic right now, and a lot of cars honking their horns, but everything quite calm. I can hear there's a PSG fan zone just away from me here, where we can hear some of their chants that we know by heart and that we're going to be hearing a lot of over the next few days. I can hear them from there. They'll surely be going into the city after that before getting home, but for a lot, of course, this is it's the culmination of an incredible weekend and just an incredible moment in their lives. We've spent a lot of the time with them during the day, and for a lot it's been a big sacrifice to come here, not just in terms of time and just in terms of travel, but financially, of course, as well. So whether they would win or not, it was going to be remembered for them. But this is just, of course, more than just a cherry on the top, because this is definitely, something they are living something absolutely unique. And talking about Paris Saint-Germain as influence and just likability, as you were just talking about just there on the international scene, it'll be interesting to see, because perhaps, you know, when they brought in the big players, and they brought in, especially thinking of the likes of Messi, the idea of selling shirts, they might actually start selling more shirts now with the smaller names after this success. Let's see.
James Messina, thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure just getting your analysis there from the Allianz Arena. And as you mentioned, these smaller names, we've had some reaction there from Vitinha, the midfielder. He says, this means everything. It's my dream. It's our dream. It's incredible. The result is not by magic. I'm happy we did it now. Let's go and celebrate. And Désiré Doué saying, I don't have the words. Thanks to the Parc des Princes, PSG's home stadium. Thanks, Paris. A dream has become reality. It's just magnificent. It's crazy. I'm so happy. And that is from the double goal scorer. Asa Hussein, if you're a fan taking all of these journeys and going to watch your team win the Champions League, it is such a commitment. It's such an investment. I just want you to become the fan for a second. Take us through this moment and what it means for all these PSG fans who honestly don't earn that much to then go and watch their team win a final and make the voyage. What is that moment like? Is it vindication?
It is, John. It's a great moment for the fans. And if you go to any PSG fan and ask him to actually replace all the journey, or to duplicate what he's been through all of these years, trying to win just one European trophy, or suffering within the new, since the Qatari investment to get the Champions League, dominating domestic football is never enough. Trying, as you said, to build up the brand, trying to be a team loved by all Europeans, loved by football fans, even in North Africa, in the Arab world, everywhere. And yet it's not happening. If you ask him to replace or to duplicate the journey, he'd say, no, I'd go all over again and live the exact journey that made me a PSG fan up until now, just to see and to live and see it happen finally in 2025 with this kind of performance, with destroying one of Europe's most historic and biggest teams in Europe by 5-0. I think they wouldn't ever replace this kind of journey by any type of constant winning or like a constant success. This is the actual success actually in football, to build the brand, to build the team brick by brick. And actually, it's kind of the philosophy of like the failure and correcting the failure by doing the right thing. They've tried everything within the project, bringing the big names. People are going to build constructive teams and construction from the behind and the back line. No, we're just going to build up and get the best forwards, the best wingers. And it didn't work, even when you have Messi, the GOAT of the game. So now they know where they are. This is the actual gift or the actual reward the project needed. And then this is where they kick off from here. This is actually, as Ruben was saying, building up the brand from now, even if we have a new rival in Paris. Now it's the culture. We were talking earlier, and he was talking about London having loads of London teams. this is PSG could be the base of like recruiting Parisian talents and all the French players and other players international, as a leader like Marquinhos and a Georgian talent like Kvaratskhelia. So I think any PSG fan is very lucky to have lived all of the drawbacks, the falls, and the upcoming, and then the drawbacks again. So it has been a wild journey, and congrats for every single PSG fan.
A beautiful message there at the end. Asser Hussein, thank you so much for joining us from Cairo. Asser, Inter fan, sports journalist, and former Al Ahly youth player. And just a quick one from Ruben. Thank you so much. I just want to get a parting comment, how you'll remember this final in a word.
Trashing, but I if I may just say for Asser, I find it's apart from it's a great journalist, being so kind after such a game. I think that you're a very a ground person. So yeah, that's I wanted to say that it was an incredible night. It was an incredible performance of the team, and yeah, football and for the football romantics, it has been a very good night as well, I think.
Well, football romanticism. Let's see if this relationship with the beautiful game goes from strength to strength after this performance. As always, a stunning exception, Ruben Slachter. It's been an unbelievable final. Thank you to Asser Hussein from Cairo, James Asina from Munich, and of course Selina Sykes from the Parc des Princes, getting all the reaction. Paris Saint-Germain are European champions for the first time in their history. They have beaten Inter Milan 5-0, and now the French capital is celebrating. It's been a pleasure from France 24. We'll see you soon here for more news.